Aloha and good morning, everybody. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, and I'm joining you from World Tourism Network here in Honolulu, Hawaii. And we're not going to go very far this morning from my perspective, because we're staying right here in Hawaii, and our discussion is about the relaunch and the current state of tourism in our state. For those of you that are joining us now on eTurbo News and on Hawaii News Online, live stream, meetings, aviation, wherever you hear us right now, and you wanted to be part of this discussion, also if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can still do this. Simply go to worldtourismevents.com and you can find us and just register for the event so you can join our Zoom discussion. Otherwise, we're ready to start and you can stay tuned. I will introduce our key people and panel. As always, we're going to keep this very interactive. And this is an event for the World Tourism Network. For those of you that are listening to us that don't know what World Tourism Network is, World Tourism Network was started in March of 2020 on the sideline of a canceled ITB and in Berlin, Germany. And those that attended our event, but 48 of them, came together over the year in 2020 and started a discussion by the name of Rebuilding Travel. And Rebuilding Travel then in December of 2020 converted into the World Tourism Network, currently with members in 128 countries. If any of you are not yet a member, you can join us very easily. It's not expensive. It starts from $50 a year. And you'll be able to be part of many discussions and initiatives we have throughout the world, of member of our various interest groups, that some of them are quite active. Just go to WTN.travel, and click on join. Without further delay, I wanted to just briefly introduce people I had contacted, and we'll do a short presentation and be part of this I would say get to know Hawaii discussion. And then of course, it's always open. So anyone who's joining us, I see a lot of our friends joining us from all over the world. Welcome Apollinari from Tanzania. He's one of our biggest contributors, writing articles for us every single day. and a lot of other people joining us this morning. Let me just mute everybody so we can hear each other. So all you need to do when you speak, just unmute yourself. And if you have a question, you can raise your hand actually in the lower part of your Zoom screen. And I'm sure you all know this by now. There is a little hand you can raise. So I wanted to introduce the people that are with us here from Hawaii and agree to contribute. We have Daniel Ahopi'i. Now probably he has to pronounce his name. Even though I lived here for 35 years, I still have problems with Hawaiian names. But he's with a research company and he had some fascinating work, so he will tell us a little bit more. I wanted to introduce Pamela Taylor. She's joining us from Sun Island, Hawaii. And those of you that don't know Sun Island, Hawaii, it's one of the longest serving inbound DMCs here in Hawaii. And anyone listening to us from overseas, it's a perfect partner if you wanted to book travel to Hawaii, to contact Pamela and his company Sun Island and have them put this all together for you. And they have been here forever and they know everybody. And of course, they have earned the trust of the industry. We have then my good friend Scott Foster. Scott is in private business here in Hawaii. He's a consultant. He's a political player in a lot of ways. He plays politicals, let's put it for political people. And he's quite a fascinating guy. You will hear from him about his perspective. And of course, Frank Haas is here. And Frank, I know Frank for a long time when he was in charge of international marketing for the Hawaii Tourism Authority. And he has been the dean of Kapiolani College, and is probably one of the most respected tourism consultant here in our state, and has a lot of insights. And yes, I see more people here from Hawaii Pacific University joining us. So you can just jump in, maybe after we hear our guests of honor, and anyone, of course, can be part of it. I would suggest we can start with Daniel. Daniel, if you unmute yourself, because I have to say I was inspired by Daniel's research to actually call for this event. So he can give us some feedback and tell us a little bit more of what he's, and I think it's called SMS Hawaii is doing.
Oh, aloha everyone. This is Daniel Naho OPE, and I'm from SMS Research here based in Honolulu. We are a full service marketing research and consulting strategic planning company. We also have, besides the Hawaii Tourism Authority as our major client, we have since 2019 also the government of Fiji through the World Bank, working on their international visitor surveys. So what I found was quite interesting, comparing a survey we did in May of 2021 compared to just recently in November of 2021, that Hawaii residents have actually shifted slightly on their sentiment towards tourism promotion. And we found that from our survey in November that a majority of Hawaii residents feel that Hawaii must continue to promote tourism, particularly so either increasing tourism promotion now, promoting tourism until the recovery, or keep tourism promotion about the same level as it has been before. At about 63% of all residents. Back when we surveyed in May of 2021, before the summer season, it was only at 54% about 6 months ago. We also saw, however, there is a portion of residents, there's a segment of the population that want to scale back tourism promotion or stop tourism promotion in all terms. So we saw that about 27% want to scale back tourism promotion and 11% want to stop tourism promotion. What I felt was interesting was that even though residents want to encourage more tourism promotion or continue the tourism promotion currently, they still feel that Hawaii residents are wary of outside travelers bringing in the next wave of coronavirus infections. And so we also asked them about, should the state require all travelers coming into Hawaii to test for COVID-19, even if they have proof of a vaccination, which currently they just have to show a proof of vaccination to avoid quarantine. And we found that 60% of all residents want to have that second level of checks, having testing as well as proof of vaccination. So it does show that they are concerned with our economy right now, but at the same time, they are also concerned and playing this balancing of the effects of another wave of the pandemic. I can show slides, but I think if we just talk through right now, that's a good explanation. Maybe we can work from there.
No, thank you very much, Daniel. A really interesting insight. And for those that don't know this, Hawaii has worked very different. I know a lot of you joining us specifically from Africa, you want all the promotions you can get. And most of the destinations want tourism, wants more tourism. Hawaii has been surprisingly a little bit different. Many say we must have the only tourism board in the world that really is working actively to have less tourists than more tourists, even though hotels, I understand, are currently only running with 30-some%. So it's a very unique situation. And to make it even more controversial is, it looks like those that should have an interest in promoting tourism are not speaking up. I can tell you for this event, we tried to get people from Hyatt, from Marriott, and from Outrigger and some of the major hotel groups, and also not the some major hotel groups like Ilima, to be on this event, and they don't want to speak. We have tried to invite the Hawaii Tourism Authority to say something, specifically explain their new direction. I think Frank can probably give us some insight on this. And they don't want to be part of it. Even Hawaiian Airlines is scared. So, and then again, we're not living really we're living in a fairly free country. So people can actually voice their opinion. so all of this is quite different here in Hawaii and surprising. But this is a wonderful destination. I lived here for 35 years. I love every day I'm here. It's just stunning, beautiful here in Hawaii. We have so many things to see and to experience for tourism. And most of us, I think, here in the industry love visitors. And that's why we have something what's called the Aloha Spirit, what no one else has, what sells on its own. Maybe we don't even have to promote Hawaii. And I would think, why don't we go, Pamela will give us more like from a practical input, but let's go to Frank and then to Scott after this, and then maybe Pamela, and then we can open for questions and see where this goes. But Frank, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Jürgen. Thank you, Daniel. I loved seeing the research. We're in interesting times in Hawaii. Things are very fluid, so I'm not surprised, Daniel, that we're seeing shifts in attitudes, and you're going to continue to see shifts in attitudes. It's an unstable environment out there. The other comment I would make relative to what Jürgen was saying about African nations still trying to promote tourism is there comes a time when there's a shift in what a destination needs to do from promotion to management. I believe that Hawaii is at that inflection point now. And it's also critically important to understand the difference between promotion and marketing. Because if you look at WTO's reports over the years, they've been, as tourism grew worldwide, the whole focus was on arrivals and numbers. And you see that, and that's fine if you're at a growth stage, but at some point you shift to a destination management stage, and then you need to look at things beyond just the number of visitors that are coming. That begs the question in my mind of how you do that. And I've been a proponent of, we need to also shift our thinking from marketing plans to management plans and to long-term thinking about the destination. I think in the absence of that, you're seeing what's happening in Hawaii. The reaction to tourism impacts has been what I call idea grenades. People are throwing all kinds of ideas out there without coordinating them, without putting them into a coordinated plan. Currently, we just raised the transit accommodations tax, that hotel tax, 3 points. That was done by a bill at the legislature that didn't even have hearings. So here we have the largest industry in the state, 17% of the economy before COVID, 20% of the employment, and we're making radical changes without really putting those changes in the context of a plan. And I truly believe that that needs to stop. In addition to that, just coming out of frustrations, we're seeing other ideas thrown out: access fees, limitations, green fees, all kinds of ideas. And in and of themselves, they may be good, but once again, they should be coordinated, and we should think about that in marketing terms, not promotion terms. And marketing, the distinction between marketing and promotion is you talk about the brand and the product, and that's and I'll stop there and just say we need to recalibrate our thinking and understand where we are and where we need to go and how to get there through long-term planning.
Thank you very much, Frank. Very good input, like always. Scott, what do you think?
Oh my goodness. Of course, like so many of us who live in Hawaii, and I'm assuming that most of our out-of-state folks are aware of our water situation here in Honolulu. That's is a nightmare for us, and I don't think there's been a lot said about it, but now we have our congressional people weighing in. Maybe I'll leave it at that. That's been my main concern, because I'm working with a number of community groups and day and night here in the islands to try to deal with this Red Hill water situation. Jürgen, maybe you want to background that a little bit for our folks.
Yes, yeah, I don't think everyone knows about the water situation here in Hawaii. First of all, we have, I think Hawaii is known to have some of the cleanest drinking water in the world. And unfortunately, because of an incident, what includes the US Navy, a tank that with used for gas, for petrol for military aircraft in Hawaii at a military air base has been leaking into drinking water tanks. So that in a nutshell, I think it's what's going on. So that of course is a big concern for those people that are affected. And there are, I think right now, I don't know how many people are affected on the island of Oahu, mostly people that live in that are associated with the military. But the fear is that this will spread into our groundwater, of course, what would be a disaster. It's not there yet, and we're all hoping the military has the resources to repair this fast enough. But that's a whole different problem we have, besides seeing how we develop the tourism industry. But I think Pamela from Sun Island, Hawaii, I said, is a DMC, is an inbound agency. She's in business to promote tourism. So I would assume, Pamela, you love to have tourists here, because the more tourists you get and the higher spending tourists you get, the better your business Sun Island is doing. So maybe you can give us a little bit background from your perspective, how things are, how do you expect things to be when it comes to the travel industry. Please unmute yourself too.
Greetings and aloha, everyone. Especially to the panel and to Mr. Haas, because I am a graduate of your tourism program. I was one of the first graduates, actually, back in, well, we're not going to talk about that, but a lot of key points have been said, and one of the things that I want to express is that we have to understand that transitioning out of a high COVID state, we are not post-COVID yet. We are in actuality in transition. And what we have to do is embrace a new norm. In particular with the Hawaiian Islands, the biggest problem is that the Hawaiian Islands is seeing the most intrusion of our state and federal government and the actions and the execution of promoting tourism. For the Hawaiian Islands, up until November of this year, we had predominantly had to depend on domestic tourism. Historically, a lot of people don't understand this, that about 20 years ago, Hawaii Tourism Authority very excellently, and with much excellence, I like to say, executed a new model where they embraced international tourism more so than domestic tourism. And the primary reason why they did that was because there were various studies, thanks to great programs like Mr. Noho Pili, that found that the international community believed in our cultural anchors here in Hawaii. Here at Sun Islands, Hawaii, we've been in business. We're a family-owned business that's been in operation on 43 years. Why do we survive? And why did we survive and kept our doors open in COVID? Is because we do believe in the cultural anchors of the Hawaiian Islands. And free flowing and free thinking with that, it was important for everybody to understand that the world in general, and it was more present to us in this past year when we were quarantined, that responsibility, global eco responsibility to the planet plays a very serious factor for the Hawaii, not only the Hawaiian Islands, but all destinations. In particular here in Hawaii, it's very important that we have very responsible tourists and guests who come to our hali. Our hali in Hawaiian means our home. A lot of things that people don't realize is that the cultural anchor and the very foundation of the existence of hospitality was birthed here in the Hawaiians. We have very serious cultural anchors as far as Ho'okipa hospitality, Lalima cooperation. these are the things that we believe that in bringing tourists here, we're going to let you be in our Holly. We want you to take care of it. We want you to be responsible, and not only be responsible, we're going to take care of you. That is the whole aspect of as far as tourism. With the intervention of the state and federal governments with the Hawaiian Islands as far as tourism, it's created a weird dynamic, because our vendors who are responsible for the beautiful excursions, our hotel accommodations, and it's probably one of the reasons to the panel and to the group why the hotels and Hawaii tourism are not apt to come into a platform and a forum like this, because we live in a precarious time where we're at the mercy of a state government who has executive power and authority to rewrite the script on a moment's notice. So they cannot speak on things where we can speak in absolutes. There are no bona fides right now in Hawaii tourism. And with that being said, that becomes very problematic. Just as right now, we are open to 80, 100% capacity, depending on the levels of the hotels, tours, and excursions. If our numbers peak to a certain point, there may be an emergency proclamation where a lot of businesses, a lot of tours and excursions in a moment notice have to shut down. For Hawaii, tourism has become a pivot, and you got to be ready to be on a pivot, to pivot at a moment's notice. As DMCs, DMO operators, bringing people here, especially the international community, which is what Sun Islands specialize in, we've had to incorporate a whole different series of wheel sets and incorporate a lot of knowledge to educate the international community coming here. We're facing issues of it's taking them twice as long to get here than it did originally, to accommodate certain COVID mandates to enter the islands. We have had to educate them, and tour operators and travel agents have had to make accommodations and make sure that they extend accommodations and get their timing correctly so that they get the necessary credentials to come into the Hawaiian Islands. Otherwise, they face, be it if they come in to Kona, Maui, or Oahu, being quarantined if their credentials isn't correct. The reason why it's been very, very important, and I have to stress this, as from the business aspect of tourism, it's frustrating, but to be Aina and to live and my family generationally, culturally anchored from Waimea, Hawaii, it's important to understand the historical precedents that diseases and the outside world bring to Hawaii. That is a part of our history. So we're trying, the preservation is that we take care of our elders here in Hawaii. And in taking care of, and we take care of our family. Everybody is a ohana. We don't leave anybody behind. We believe in taking care of each other. So the responsibility is to protect what is the defenseless. And a lot of the way that our state and federal government has tried to impose these rules and protocols for COVID. And it's on us to have due diligence to navigate it. And that's what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to find our way. It's something that's not going to happen overnight. We've instituted tools and protocols, and a lot of it has to do with dialogue, having beautiful platforms like this that is supplied by World Destination Travel to support our government, our family who live with us here in the islands, and our extended family who we want you to come home and visit because you're missed, especially the European community. But it's a dialogue, and it's going to be trial by error because things are uncertain until we, not only as the Hawaiian community, but as a world, can come together on a platform on how we can work together to be responsible about this pandemic that is ravaging us on a global level.
And Pamela, I'm sorry.
There's going to be trial and error.
No, Pamela, you summarized, I think, the challenges quite correctly. For those that don't know, Hawaii has been extra diligent, I think, and protective through the entire COVID situation. Even though we're one of the 50 states in the United States, things have been different here. In order to get to Hawaii, of course, you have to go on a 5.5-hour flight from the US West Coast. So we're kind of located, it's probably the most remote island in the world, I think, between the US mainland and Asia and Japan. So we can pretty much control who's coming in and going out. And with requirements like having to be tested before you get here. Now recently it changed that when you're vaccinated, you can come in without being tested. And if you don't have a test or a valid test, you had to go to 10 days of quarantine. I remember when I got back from Mexico in May, I had to go to 10 days quarantine, even though I was tested, but Hawaii was so strict and only really accepted tests from the United States, not from Mexico, where I came in. So we have been very careful. But if you look, we're all connected in the world. So if you look at the current numbers, they are quite high again, and like they're everywhere, like they're in Europe. I see the numbers, Wolfgang, correct me if I'm incorrect, but I see the numbers from Germany, and I follow them with big concern. And it's similar in Hawaii. Our numbers are going up, and unfortunately also our death rate has not been as low as it was at times when we completely shut down. Now it looks like the community, not only in Hawaii, globally has become more immune. So 1,500 people dying in the United States on one day, these are realistically 5 wide-body planes crashing in one day, doesn't seem to shock people that much anymore. But then, of course, we have to continue our economic prosperity. And tourism, of course, is a big industry driver in many destinations, including Hawaii. Maybe before we get to Scott, Pamela, how are the numbers? How many people are actually coming here? How's your business? How are you guys doing? Because Sun Island is really specialized in international arrivals, and the United States only opened up on the 8th of November. I was actually on the very first flight from Frankfurt, Germany to San Francisco when the United States opened up for international travel. And I can tell you, it was a zoo out there at Frankfurt Airport. People are desperate to come and visit the US. How's this here in Hawaii right now?
Well, officially, we started seeing visitors back here in Hawaii October of 2020, where we took that time between March and into the summer to integrate a plan, because we do have some very amazing clients who did have a domestic market, and it was a pivot. It was straight a pivot. We instituted a more high-end luxury program. We did our research. I utilized the tools that I've gotten from the industry all these years, as far as marketing in particular and what have you, and product and procurement, and basically created a model based on people who wanted to travel and what was it to travel in COVID. And that is something that, to the international community, that the message should be. You really need to probably take a step back and take a study of what it's like to travel post-COVID. What we found is that People didn't want to travel in large groups anymore. People were willing to pay to travel as safely as possible. We ended up attracting a higher end, more financial stable group of people who were capable of travel and wanted to travel, couldn't leave the country. One of the things about the domestic community is, and of the wealthy elite here, you know, post-COVID, that as soon as any opportunity opened up for them, they were willing to go anywhere. And so there was a need to, after being locked down for a year, to come out. And making Hawaii that destination and knowing the fears and the risk it was opening up to the domestic community, Hawaii, where we still had deficiencies. I don't know, a lot of people didn't realize up until honestly the last 6 weeks, Hawaii had a car shortage. We had a rental car shortage, and we had to navigate through that doing the reopening to domestic travel. We had to open back up to people in the domestic community who was not fluid with the pricing of our economy and the price it was going to cost to come, and the availability being cut by 50%. We had to navigate through all of that. And it has to do with good communication, good logistics. At the end of the day, if you ever take Mr. Haas's travel and tourism class from Kapiolani, one of the things we were taught is know your island and know the logistics of your island. And in communicating that in a destination management industry, it was tricky. It was logistics. And we at Sun Islands, unfortunately, had to reduce our staff by a significant amount and handle destinations and still give that quality connection. What hurt most is, particularly with Sun Islands, not just to plug our company, but we do pivot to the European community, and we do offer multilingual touring for our guests, which means we had to incorporate for our client, for the domestic market, and to operate for our vendors. You know, it was heartbreaking because I have like 65 vendors who run tours from Haleakala to Napali Coast, who cater in German, Italian, French, Russian. And I couldn't offer them business because they didn't have the base, they didn't have the operational tools to meet a domestic market. That was frustrating. So then I have to kick in for procurement and reestablish new relationships with people to create that domestic market. It was good logistics. We saw a lot of people doing buyouts this past year. Now, as the Europeans come back, is trying to incorporate that small group and trying to educate them that a lot of the vendors found this model effective. You have to understand that with the reduction requirements that were placed upon tours and excursions, that meant a reduction of staff. And as the numbers are raised, they still technically don't have that staff back. Another thing that I'm starting to see, which is our operational hurdle. Sun Islands, Hawaii is very important in being versed in European travel law. So European travel law has some very specific privacy issues. Whereas here in Hawaii, because of the contract tracing requirements that have been placed on tours and excursions, they do conflict with the European travel privacy laws. So it's become very problematic because it's hard to navigate as Europe comes back to make them understand it's not business as usual. It's not there's a new norm. So it's hard dealing with the European community who's not very upfront about giving us personal information of the guest. And it isn't about a proprietary thing. It is because these vendors, especially certain group excursions such as luau's here, such a small group as far as boating tours, certain tours are required to have as much documented information so that our state health facilities can contract trace in case there is a breakout or an infection. And it's trying to get the European community to understand, we need you to go to your government and make your government and your magistrates understand. We want you here, but we have to find common ground and how we can travel, receive you safely, and you can travel here safely.
No, thank you, Pamela. A good input. And yes, I know of a lot of people, and we hear about a lot of people that hotels are understaffed, even with low occupancy. It's sometimes hard to handle the low occupancy they have to manage because people during the time when we were locked down were looking for other opportunities, left the island. And this is probably not a unique problem only in Hawaii, probably also for many other destinations. Scott raised a hand, and I think Danielle also made a comment. So let's go to Scott first.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but these past weeks with this water situation that has hit us has revealed a lot of things that probably should have been obvious, but like never before, I am seeing the Hawaiian people, and I mean those who are Hawaiian and are reclaiming, and I'm going to say their ownership of the islands like I've never seen before. Whole new organizations are finding their voices to speak out against the pollution of not just these aquifers, which is our horrible problem, and most people don't understand these huge aquifers that are on every island. That's where we get our water, and why Hawaii is habitable is because of this easy access, at least in the past, to water. That's changing like never before, and it's coming mainly from the Hawaiian people, and of course those who love Hawaii and call themselves Hawaiian, which they're not. The Hawaiians themselves are speaking out like never before, and I think you're going to see more and more and more of this. The ball game is over, as it has been in the past, and I think everybody that's in business and has made their living off of the culture, things are changing, and they're changing as we speak. So I'll leave it at that. But I'm just trying to reiterate the fact that it's a whole new ball game because of this recent water pollution. This is a huge problem. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. And maybe that would be a good second discussion we can have on the water. But when it comes, of course, tourism and water is all interconnected. Just for those, we don't really have a problem here with water. So you can come to Hawaii, we have plenty of good water. But yes, there is an issue here specifically relevant to our local population on the island of Oahu we are addressing. But Daniel, you had some comments you put in the chat box, so I wanted to give you the microphone.
Well, actually, now I have a whole bunch of different comments too.
Good.
So, okay, let's start with what I put in the chat. So first off, it may seem like, especially during the summer, we had a bounty of visitors coming. The press releases went out that tourism has recovered, but really it hasn't. As Pamela mentioned, there's a lot of the group travel, international travel, which are our higher spending visitors, so are not back yet and not consistently arriving. So we are still depressed in terms of the tourism economy here. So that's an important consideration. But then to transition on how are we going to manage it well, as Frank had mentioned. There's two issues I think that are tossing around. One, going to where Scott was talking about, it has to do with the same issue that's happening in the water. Residents really didn't get involved in tourism management and didn't hold the state and the other agencies accountable on managing the property, the sites. The same thing happened with the water. Everyone knew already that the Navy has been having problems with their tanks, but the state really didn't step in to continue to manage and monitor that as well as they should have. And so it's very similar in what's happening in the tourism, where the residents now are taking a stand now to get more involved and holding the state and county and the other agencies to manage the sites, to encourage work out systems that can limit visitations in a more controlled manner, hold the tourism authority more accountable for how they promote different sites and other situations. But then I have one last comment, and that is tying it all together. We need to transition out of this, and this is the best time to work on it. And we can start, I think, from certain areas such as our meetings and conventions and our group travel. They are the most controlled area. And if we can, as Pamela has been trying to encourage certain groups that understand the issues, and have to deal with regulations. It's the same. If they can deal with the regulations for COVID, then they can start to go with more restricted types of tourism products that have these cultural requirements in it. They have certain, you do not go here to visit. It's not free form traveling and hiking all the time. If you encourage those visitors and create tours and products of that nature, and the DMCs and especially the meeting planners and group can start to do that, then the product will change. And that's one of the issues we've had in a long time, is the product hasn't changed. We still have these free form, wild spree type of fun and sun products for first time visitors. We haven't done the repeat. We haven't done the more cultural. We did little spots of it, but we haven't shifted to only offering those kinds of things that have just as much interest, create just as much spending, but there's limitations that protect the destination. And I think if we start from the group and MCI and then work our way, it'll convert over to this. And I know Frank maybe think that's kind of an interesting way of taking it, but I think at least we can work on it. And the MCI contract is up for bid right now. So MCI promotion contract's up for bid. So this is a good time. I hope those people that are applying for that meetings and conventions contract are thinking in these terms. Anyway,
yeah, that's a very good point. And Frank, you raised your hand.
I did, because there are so many good comments here. But first of all, thank you, Pamela. It's always good to see a student who is in a position of actually doing some of the things that we learned in class. So thank you for that. Daniel, you're right on. We have not paid attention to the product. We've not paid attention to the new tools that are available. Technology has the potential to really change the game here. In terms of how we market and who we market to, and being much more precise than we have been in the past. But the other, and I'll just make some quick comments so we can open this up for other people, but the other object lesson here for everybody, even those countries who are still in the development stage, is pay attention to management early. We have seen these issues coming down the road. And ignored them, basically. I will just say that I was involved in several strategic plans for the Hawaii Tourism Authority, and one of them was back in 2005, which was now, 15 years ago. We identified 9 things that had to happen, not just marketing, but 9 things that need to happen: Hawaiian cultural preservation and promotion, natural resources, good research, long-range planning. All those things were identified as things that should be done, and somehow we fell asleep. And here we are 15, 20 years later, where we're saying, oh my goodness, it's a crisis. So the time to avoid a crisis is before the crisis happens. And so that's, I think that's a lesson for all of us.
Absolutely. Let's get to Pamela and then we open up for other questions. I know one, Anita asked if you can still swim in the ocean and she can drink bottled water. It's not that bad yet. So it's not really affecting ocean water at all. It's a different issue what comes to drinking water in one part of the island of Oahu, a part actually what is not related to tourism. It's a military area right now. And we just hope it's not going to spread into the drinking water, but there is no danger from what I understand, what involves ocean water and Waikiki Beach and all our clean waters you have at beaches where you can go and enjoy. So don't worry about this. And our bottled water, I always buy local water. It's actually one of the healthiest and best water you can get. You don't really have to buy water from Fiji and from Norway. No need. Our water is great. But Pamela, go ahead.
Okay, so a lot of things. Frank, as always, like all those points that he just told you, he makes sure is in his curriculum 110%. You graduate his program, you know it. Daniel, you're totally on point. In addressing the water, Scott, I want to give you an issue. It's not just that. People need to understand that there was a series of powder kegs that totally blew up. Let me talk story 1 minute to you guys. There was a series of powder kegs that blew up coming into 2017 to now that has exacerbated the Hawaiian people and the Kama Ainas as far as things that they saw happening that they did not want to happen. Number one, we have historically, when DLNR was created back in the 1900s, there was a series, and I'm speaking not only as a DMC person, personally, I have, like I said, Hawaiian cultural anchors. My family is one of the first families that were integrated and embraced by Parker Ranch in Waimea. I am a part of a sustainable farm, which is the only lo'i in Mauna Loa, which is the upper Makiki level of Oahu. I grow Native American flowers. I do tea leaves. I do a lot of sustainable Hawaiian farming. You need to understand that there was a cultural issue here that back in the 1900s, DLNR planted a whole series of what we now know was invasive plant life here. So back in 2016 and 27, the first problem that was an issue is something that is called rapid Ohia death. The Ohia tree is a cultural anchor to the Hawaiian people. We already lost a very spiritual, cultural commodity in sandalwood. Ohia is very important to the Hawaiian people for spirituality, rituals, artifacts, and things that they make. To see the Ohia tree dying and not feeling that the state and the federal government was doing anything about it was a problem. This had a lot to do with our cultural wildlife being affected. This is where responsible tourism had to come in. And it was charged to the responsible tourism agencies to make sure as your guests come enjoy the islands, they enjoy responsible, not cross-contaminating areas, only going where they're allowed, only going to see what they needed to see and do what they wanted to do. These were lack of responsibilities that the Hawaiian people and the local people here to preserve the island saw that was not happening. Ergo, companies and agencies and industries and businesses were coming here and were not taking into account of how important the land is to the people. Here, the Hawaiian term for land is called the Aina. The Aina is very important to the people here in Hawaii. And if you don't take care of the Aina, it's considered kapu. And that's where they wanted to see that responsibility. COVID happened, the land got to rest and heal, but still during that time, because we were so focused on COVID and keeping our numbers down, things were not taken care of and things were not addressed. Then we opened up to the tourist community, the domestic market. And I must say, you know, in a level of transparency, the most professional way I can say it is that the domestic was not kind coming back to Hawaii. They were not kind. In particular, something that was very, very near and dear to my heart that affected me greatly, that in Maui this summer, one of the most oldest known petroglyphs to the Hawaiian Islands was disgraced by graffiti of tourists. And they had the audacity to film it on social media. Other things that we had was domestic people who came and disgraced our royal families, statues and monuments by putting paraphernalia to their mouths and filming it like it was funny. We had people destroying local monuments and, you know, and just no respect. And that's the whole thing about why we are so, it's important for us to monitor and be responsible about who we bring here and how they enjoy the islands. And as I said, you know, the nicest way, the European community, the international community as a whole, respects when they go to someone else's home. And we need to find that focus so that you guys can come back to us.
Pamela, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I said it's very good point. But since we're running a little bit short on time, it's fascinating what you're saying, and it's true. It's probably not only true for Hawaii; it's true for many other destinations. I'm wondering if anyone has a question or comment. Please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to put a couple of people on the spot here. I wanted to put on the spot Wolfgang Hoffmann in Düsseldorf, and I explained who he is, and also Professor Snesana in Serbia. But please raise your hand and we're going to give you the microphone. Professor Snesana in Serbia is leading our educational interest group for World Tourism Network, and she's always been a good part of our events for the last year. And when it comes to educating tourists about destinations before they travel, wouldn't that be something what organizations like, for instance, the World Tourism Organization and others should focus on to make tourism better? And I'm not specifically just talking about Hawaii, but also in general, Professor. What do you think?
Good evening, everyone. I was listening this discussion, which is excellent. And education of destination is very important, especially when tourists are going to long destinations, I mean faraway destination, where the culture and is completely different, when way of living is different, and especially nowadays when we have this problem with COVID, we have to inform our tourists what to expect. So I think that World Travel Network should have a special education packages for different destinations, and then we have to work together, because a destination changed in this last 2 years. Tourists change in these last 2 years because life changed completely, and many people are saying that it's a new reality, but I don't like it really. Although, for example, here in Serbia, we had our domestic tourism, we had the booming of domestic tourism. 10 times more domestic tourists are traveling around the country, and it happened in each country. But I could see even in domestic people, Serbian people, they do not know destinations in Serbia. So it is very important to educate tourists about destination, what they will see there, how they can get there and such a things. For example, Hawaii is a very interesting destination for tourists in Serbia because Serbian people like to travel a lot, and we really travel all around the world, and many people are going to United States and especially to Hawaii. But nowadays, when I ask them, would you like to travel to Hawaii, for example, they said yes, but we are scared because we don't know what is going on when we go to the airport here in Belgrade, Nikola Tesla Airport, until we come to Hawaii. We don't know when we change the plane, what is going on at that airport, what is going on in the next airport and such a thing. So destination, not only about education, sorry, not only about destinations, but also how to get there is very important.
Yeah, and that's definitely, Professor, that is a big discussion, I think.
Yes, it
many
is
should have,
discussion.
because we don't know what happens in changing airports, international airports, and even within a country like the United States can be a challenge because you don't know what would happen if you go to another state. So you definitely have a point. And the education, maybe it's something what tour operators should be encouraged of providing. Like, for instance, Sun Island, we can have Pamela respond to it maybe after we get to Wolfgang. How maybe a DMC could provide some of these informations to their clients, what are tour operators and travel agencies in other countries or domestically. So before their tourists come here, they have a knowledge about customs and sensibility and so forth. But thank you very much, Professor. The reason I wanted to add Wolfgang, Wolfgang is in Düsseldorf, my former, or my hometown still. I was born in Düsseldorf, so I'm a member of the Skull Club, and Wolfgang is leading the Skull Club in Düsseldorf. And Pamela was talking about privacy laws in Europe. Help us to understand, Wolfgang, about these privacy concerns. I am not living in Germany now for the last 35 or more years. I even have a little bit of an issue. I said, come on, I mean, what's the big deal having my picture on Facebook? So there seems to be a cultural divide between Europe and the US altogether. What are your comments in regards to Pamela's concern in regards to privacy laws between Europe and the US?
Well, I think it's a fairly big issue. The Europeans have the feeling that Big Brother USA wants to grab all the information they can get and store it somewhere, somehow. And even when you are just transiting USA, you are under the privacy laws of the USA, and you have to deliver all sorts of information. It is a big issue. It's to some extent, I fully agree, it's exaggerated because everyone is giving so much information voluntarily on social networks, and suddenly they become very kinky once it is a official organization behind it. So exaggerating from the European point of view, exaggerating information collected might prevent some Europeans traveling to these countries where they collect too much data. When I was traveling to the Dominican Republic 4 weeks ago, we just came back. We just had to fill an arrival. When everyone agrees that you have to deliver your contact information so that once there is a spread of the virus, they have your data, where you are from, your telephone number, your email address, so they can contact you and follow up where you are and inform you. But even within Germany, our Corona app, which should allow tracing Corona infections, was because of privacy laws could not fulfill the job, because the guardians of the privacy, they prevented some useful data to be collected, which was not good for following up infections in the Corona. So they are quite kinky once it's an official organization who is collecting these data. Yeah.
And that is definitely a little bit different, I think, from what we're used here, better or worse. But Pamela has a comment on this. Pamela, go ahead. You please unmute yourself.
Okay. So basically, you know, to answer the professor, she brought a valid point. And that was one of the things that we had to do as far as pivoting. We had to supply and seek resources and knowledge to supply to the travel partners and to our inbound clients the information. So basically, not only are we supplying you resources, we're supplying you information. We work around the clock to try to stay up on all the changes as far as rules, regulations, and what have you, and we're educating you. Another thing that we did do, Daniel, is that, you know, because I went from being educated as a tour operator all the way to now in the destination management and being a manager and a direct manager of procurement and operations, I created my own tours. I sat down with vendors, you know, I can't use you here, but I've created a product that is going to allow you to operate this product. We sit down with the cost, we sit down with everything, clients happy, responsible tourism, and what have you. I instituted a lot of products because the reason why it's a pivot. You got to supply something, but you got to supply something safe. You got to do those balances. We at Sun Islands had to do that. And that's why we survived during COVID. And I feel that, you know, I upheld. To me, my kumu always teach me. My ka'u and my kumu teach me. Kuleana is everything here. Kuleana in Hawaiian means responsibility. We have a responsibility to these islands. We as in tourism have to be more responsible. And it's so sad because, like I was reading in the comments about the fact that, you know, a lot of agencies did not survive. You know, a lot of us here in Hawaii, you think that you would think that DMCs, DMOs, and travel agency compete with each other. No, we don't. We understand, we get it. We're in this together. Only together can we have tourism to survive. Whereas we have to be willing to supply the knowledge to the European community, to the DMOs, the DMCs over in Europe, and make sure that they give that information down to the agent. So when that traveler reaches to that agent, she knows she's supported all the way back to Hawaii when she's trying to sell a vacation here. And that is what we do. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of logistics. But as something that my father and mother always told me, if you're doing what you love, it's not work. Because I want our guests to be safe, and I want my Ohana here to be safe. I want my Aina to be safe.
And Pamela, again, this is, you kind of summarized, I think, the concern all of us who live in Hawaii have. We all want to be safe. We want our visitors to be safe. We want to be safe. And I think this is probably the same everywhere in the world these days. And Hawaii is a special place, and we have special circumstances. And I think we touched a lot of this in today's discussion. So if anyone, we're coming to the end of this session, if anyone wanted to add something to it, please do. In the meantime, I'd like to welcome our good friend and supporter. She leads our Balkan chapter and is actually in charge of tourism in the Republic of Montenegro, Alexandra Gardarcevic. I just wanted to recognize you and maybe give us a few words. How are things in Montenegro right now? Alexandra, you have to unmute yourself.
I have.
There we
Can you
go.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, good. Good evening to Jürgen, good evening to everybody. First of all, I apologize for being so late. I just arrived home after 12 hours long working day, so I'm exhausted, but I really had to see you guys and just to greet you. I'm so sorry that I missed the meeting, but I will make sure that I listen to the recording version, because I'm really looking forward to hear what you guys have been talking about. The situation in Montenegro is, I would say, okay. I just, for example, had a meeting with the minister and top management, because the strategy of tourism strategy of Montenegro is up to be finished, up to be done. And we had so long, like 5 hours long meeting on this topic, because I am preparing that strategy with my team. And we were kind of, we have been questioned and asked a trillion questions from the minister's sides and, and other stuff. And I survived, and it looks that we are on the good way, on the right way. So as I said, I will listen to this meeting, and thank you so much for giving me a chance to greet you all. And I'm really looking forward for the next one, so I can join the discussion in real time. Thank you.
It's always great, Alexander, to have you here.
You.
You've been a great
supporter.
Thank you so much. And we're going to definitely do another session on Montenegro. I think, how many people you have living in Montenegro? It's a fairly small country, right?
It's a really small country. It's 600,000 people.
See, we're about twice the size in Hawaii. So we're both small, but we're not a country, unfortunately. So yeah.
Well, you are not the country. We are the country, but we are calling Montenegro an island, because due to quite bad infrastructure, the best way to reach Montenegro is via airplanes. So we are an island like you guys in Hawaii are. So not many benefit of that being on the land, if I may say so.
Thank you, Alexander, and also thank you
so much.
Thank you. And for everyone here, I don't see anyone raising or having any additional question. There's a little bit on the chat box, but why don't we just do a short round, like 1 minute, for each of you who have been on the panel, to summarize and give us your thoughts on what we discussed and the way forward. Maybe we can start with Daniel again and go around. Is that okay?
Okay, so I think what I wanted to cover today was that it's important to listen to the residents in the development of this destination management, that residents are part of the destination, and the impacts of the community are important to consider in promotion. They do support tourism as long as it's managed well. So I think it's not to be afraid of residents, but integrate them into the decision-making process.
Thank you, Daniel, and thanks for your participation. Pamela, 1 minute. Please unmute yourself.
I think that it's said best. I'm reading the comments in the chat. Education and training. We have to all talk to each other. Cultural anchor here is talk story. Get the community involved, like Daniel says. DMO, travel agencies, travel destination people, HTA. We all need community things need to be made as a community decision, and we educate each other and put each other on the same page. And then we can, as one family, can move forward to bringing tourism back to where it needs to recover.
Thank you, Pamela. Scott.
Yes, thank you. I certainly appreciate this opportunity and speaking to almost a world audience. I'm a little intimidated. I guess I'm going to beat the same drum about the problems that Hawaii is facing, and before other cities, countries get into this same sort of situation, everyone's got to preserve their natural resources, and Hawaii has failed to do that badly. And again, I don't want to beat the same drum, but that's kind of where we are in Hawaii. We have major crises here on Oahu, which is the most populous island in Hawaii, and that's what we're dealing with. So thank you for bearing with me as I beat that same drum. Aloha to all.
Thank you, Scott. And the famous last word come from Frank.
2 quick points. First of all, to underscore what Daniel said, we need to embrace the notion that the whole purpose of tourism is to benefit the people in the place. If it doesn't do that, what's the point? So the planning, the thinking, the structure of the brand, the structure of the product, all has to flow from that. And the second point I'll make, and this is perhaps a subject for another session, Jürgen, is the world has changed in terms of our capabilities and what tools we have. So I've embraced this idea of smart tourism. Cities have been managing congestion and managing stresses by applying technology. Tourism has been late to the game. And I think we need to look at how to use the tools that are at our disposal to make tourism truly regenerative.
Thank you so much, Scott and Frank and Pamela and Dania and everyone else who's attending. I see Mario in Italy, I didn't mention him, is joining us from Roma. We should have a session on Italy sometimes, and Apollinari in Tanzania and wherever else you're joining us today. And this is really what World Tourism Network is about. You should join our community in 128 countries. Also, we can look to have events like this for your own region, for your own subject, and join the discussion globally on issues that are important to travel and tourism. Simply go to WTN.travel. Those that are listening to us now on eTopo News, this will be repeated a number of times on our homepage and all our article pages. And after this, just go to our YouTube channel, Vimeo channel, or live stream, and you can always go back and listen to watch what we discussed today. From Honolulu, Hawaii, I can only also add my aloha and mahalo to everyone who is attending and who was attending, and hope we see you again soon, and hope we see you here in our beautiful state. The tourism is open and people are coming here. And if you need help to plan your trip, you should talk to Pamela. I'm sure she can help to set this all up for you. Again, thank you very much, and hope to see you guys soon. I'm going to put everyone on the screen so we can all wave to each other and say goodbye.